Hello everybody, it's ecancer September monthly review. I'm Gordon McVie, I'm the founding editor. And it's a superb special issue to kick off with. It's just amazing. It's all about the microbiome. It's got a really lovely title, The Microbiome, a Novel Paradigm in Cancer Research. Being put together by 3 specialists in the microbiome and its links to cancer. They are led by Julian Marchese and James Kinross and Alasdair Scott. These 3 are leaders in the International Cancer Microbiome Consortium, and they come from the Universities of Cardiff and Imperial College, St Mary's Hospital. The last of these has done a video to accompany an editorial which sums it all up, but the detail is in 6 papers and they're really high class. They're review level, they're looking at prevention, they're looking at causation obviously, they're looking at lung cancer and colorectal cancer in particular, and they're looking at potential treatments for manipulating the microbiome. It's not just me who thinks this is an exciting area, and these are good papers to read. We've had 2,000 views of these 6 papers in the first week since we put them up on the ecancer website. Really interesting to start off with the challenge that cancer is a genetic disease and that the environment plays a secondary role. This is being turned on the head by this consortium. They're saying, hang on a minute, most cancers will probably turn out to be related to the environment, and how could that be? And they're putting forward this billions of bacteria and yeasts and fungi in the gut which could contribute. It's unlikely that one microbe will be linked to one cancer, like Helicobacter we know about in stomach, and we know about papillomavirus, etc. It's much more likely to be a linked set of bacteria or viruses, and already the teams describe in this series of papers links which lead to potential carcinogens. Genotoxic agents like hydrogen sulfide, protease and phenol can all be produced by common organisms living within the colon, and they of course could predispose to cancer, and they certainly predispose to inflammation. So this is the one topic of the month that you really have to look at, along with the 2,000 other people who've already got ahead of you. You may have seen the videos of the WIN symposium that was held in Paris, and now we've got a really detailed, comprehensive, written editorial from Will Davis in the ecancer team. He pulls out the highlights and goes into more detail than the speakers on the videos had time to do. And I think the key people to kick it off were a very strong American group of leaders. For instance, Shulsky, who's chief executive of ASCO. He's a founder member of WIN. And then Carl June, who's, you might say, is the founder member of CAR T cells. And he gave an update on that. And then Jim Doroshaw, who's one of the leading cancer clinicians at the National Cancer Institute in Bethesda. And then Leroy Hood, who challenged the audience yet again by saying that this genetic stuff, gene mutations and so on, targeted therapy only on gene mutations. In 10 years, he said, this is all going to be past history. It's all going to be about proteins. It's the proteins that do the business. The genes just sit there and dictate to the proteins what should happen. And as usual, he was stirring up a great deal of discussion in the coffee breaks, and controversial to the very last word of his talk. The WIN activities to produce first-class collaborative clinical trials based on precision medicine across the Atlantic were reviewed by 2 speakers. Harvey Pass talked about the booster trial, and Roselle Karsdorp, who was interviewed on video, went into detail about the first 2 trials, winter and spring. Good collaborative work, shows that you can have European groups working very productively and synergistically with American groups, all with the one ideal, and that is to get the right drug for the right patient at the right time. Also in the journal this month, we've got 2 case reports, which are quite remarkable. The first one is not to do with cancer as an entity, but a precancerous condition, namely neurofibromatosis 1. Neurofibromatosis 1 is characterized by neurofibromin, and that interacts with a cascade of important oncogenes such as RAS, and interacts with MEK. And it describes a case report of a 12-year-old with serious neurofibromatosis, with serious difficulties and a seriously excellent and durable response from a MEK inhibitor. And the MEK inhibitor was trametinib. So we don't see many of these patients in the cancer clinic, but it's worth bearing in mind for your colleagues who look after pre-malignant conditions such as neurofibromatosis, that there are cancer drugs available which might help. The second case report is on hepatosplenic gamma delta T cell lymphoma. And this is a patient treated in Houston, Texas by Sun et al. 51-year-old male who got a complete remission from PEG asparaginase, old-fashioned drug with PEG attached to it to improve its half-life and prolong its half-life, and a complete remission followed by stem cell transplantation. PEG asparaginase and the stem cell transplantation have produced a complete remission, which has still maintained at the time of writing this paper. So really interesting. There's 2 case reports, unusual drugs, unusual situation, and excellent responses. You will be aware, if you've watched the monthly roundup over the last 4 or 5 months, that we have been very busy in taking the original 22 or so palliative care modules designed for sub-Saharan Africa to India in English and in Hindi, and now to Latin America. We launched the Latin American versions of these 23 modules in Spanish and Portuguese last week in Buenos Aires. Fantastic meeting on palliative care with all the specialists in the country of Argentina and round about, plus the supporting care people, the experts in paramedicine, the nurses, 400 in all, listening to superb talks on state of the art in Latin America in palliative care. We have filmed around 20 of these experts. They're available to look at now in Spanish, and the modules themselves, all 23 of the teaching modules, are up on the website in Spanish. I'm told that the Portuguese versions will be up in the next few weeks. So well done, the ecancer team in Latin America. Terrific impact on the continent in a particularly Cinderella area. Palliative care, nobody really wants to talk about or to highlight, etc. But it contains science of its own. And this is what has been displayed in the ecancer meeting in Buenos Aires last week. Lastly, the video team attended a conference in London called Research for Health in Conflict, and filmed a number of key speakers, including the chairman of the trustees of eCancer Global Foundation, Professor Richard Sullivan, who is a big expert in healthcare in conflict zones. He gave a talk particularly looking at the issues of mental health problems in conflict zones, and also the links to those who have cancer within conflict zones. And it wouldn't surprise anybody to know that they get extra mental health problems. So really interesting, completely novel area for ecancer. And I suspect for many of you watching ecancer and listening to this talk, people who are in conflict zones, and we're not short of them disgracefully, they get ill too, and they get cancer too. That's it for now. That's it for September, and we'll catch up again in October. Thank you for watching.